Unrelenting attacks in the Middle East this Monday night. As the war fuels surging oil prices, the domino effects on the supply chain, Canada's food prices, and even interest rates. Who is Iran's new supreme leader, and how is he being received?
Nothing will change.
Plus, fearing for their lives. Australia's decision to protect a group of Iranian women soccer players.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The U.S. and Israel have not let up on their intense attacks on Iran in this second week of the war, launching a wave of fresh strikes as the U.S. president is sending conflicting signals about how long it will go on. And Iran is showing no signs of backing down. Huge crowds in Tehran turned out to show their loyalty to Iran's newly chosen leader. Mojtaba Khamenei is the son of the previous leader who the U.S. assassinated, along with dozens of other senior officials at the beginning of this war. Asked today if the new leader has a target on his back, Trump wouldn't give a direct answer.
Do you have to take him out? Does he have a target on his back?
You mean the new supreme leader? You mean the son?
How can there be an Iran with
well,
another
I don't want to say that, but you know, I was disappointed because we think it's going to lead to just more of the same problem for the country. So I was disappointed to see their choice.
Iran continues to retaliate, launching a barrage of missiles and drones, hitting an oil refinery in Bahrain, wounding more than 30 people there. Turkey says NATO shot down another Iranian missile that entered its airspace today. As well, oil prices have spiked again because refineries are being hit and tankers are not moving through the Strait of Hormuz. We have coverage of all of this tonight, beginning with Redmond Shannon.
Airstrikes on the streets of Beirut and in the hills of southern Lebanon as Israel targets the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah. Medics say this injured Lebanese priest later died. Of the almost 500 people killed in Lebanon in the past week, UNICEF says 83 have been children. Scenes of mourning in Iran too as US and Israeli airstrikes continue there for a 10th day. The US says it is helping us, but what kind of help is this, asks this woman. As state media marked the appointment of new Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei, it broadcast an image of a missile said to be bound for Israel with Khamenei's name on its side. Iranian strikes killed at least one person in Israel Monday.
The new leader, unfortunately, is more of the same. Same ideology, same radical ideas.
And more than 30 people were injured in an Iranian drone attack on Bahrain. NATO member Turkey intercepted an Iranian missile too, the second such incident of the war. With French President Emmanuel Macron arriving in European Union member Cyprus. When Cyprus is attacked, Europe is attacked, he said of last week's drone strike at a British airbase there, announcing more French naval vessels for the region, including a proposal to eventually escort oil out of the Persian Gulf, a route currently blocked by Iran. The blockade has pushed crude oil above $100 a barrel for the first time in 4 years. G7 finance ministers met virtually Monday for an emergency meeting on the price of oil. They did not agree to support the release of strategic oil reserves just yet, but say they stand ready to do so. Donna?
All right, Redmond Shannon in London, thank you. Iran's foreign minister today mocked the attacks by Israel and the U.S., calling it Operation Epic Mistake instead of Epic Fury. Iranians hoping for a regime change are not getting it. The newly chosen supreme leader is not only the son of the previous one, he's described as even more hardline. And after his father was killed, he will likely seek revenge. Jeff Semple reports.
Tens of thousands took to the streets of war-torn Tehran, a rally planned by the regime for the regime to celebrate its new supreme leader. I am happy, says this woman. This will make them fear the name of Khamenei once again. Mojtaba Khamenei, the second son of the former Ayatollah, is now in control of the Islamic Republic after his father, as well as his mother, wife, and child, were all killed in a U.S.-Israeli airstrike.
Well, I suspect he's incredibly furious
And that will probably push him even in a more obstinate and reactionary direction.
In a country where criticizing the regime can be deadly, some Iranians shouted "Death to Mojtaba" from their windows. But Mojtaba Khamenei didn't show up to his own party, perhaps because the Israelis have promised to assassinate him the first chance they get. Indeed, at one point, an Israeli airstrike narrowly missed one of the pro-government rallies. But Khamenei's absence is also consistent with his reputation.
He's very much a mysterious figure. He doesn't give interviews. He hasn't given a speech.
Khamenei is expected to bring more of the same. A hardliner like his father, with close ties to Iran's notorious Revolutionary Guard, who seem intent on fighting to the death. Iraq has been hit particularly hard. Pro-Iran militias within the country are launching nightly drone attacks. This security worker narrowly survived an attack at the Erbil airport. Others weren't so lucky. Tayyar Abdullah Mohammed's 31-year-old son was also on security at the airport. He leaves behind 2 young children, a newborn baby and 5-year-old Ayman. They want to kill us. I'm proud that my son gave his life against the evil regime, his father says. Iraq, like other countries across the region, has closed airports and borders.
War is very bad for business.
The Kurdish Minister of Transportation estimates around 70% of their economy is shut down.
We are not part of this conflict, and we would like to see it resolved peacefully.
But Iran's choice of supreme leader suggests peace isn't in the cards. Tehran's strategy to attack its neighbors and disrupt the global economy enough to pressure President Trump to back off. But after 10 days of fighting, Donna, no sign of that.
All right, Jeff Semple in Erbil, Iraq, thanks. How long it will last, why it was started now, what the end game is, and what the unintended consequences might be. There are contradictory messages from the Trump administration on all of those important questions, as Jackson Prosco reports.
As the war enters its second week, there's still no clear explanation for why the U.S. and Israel decided to attack Iran.
The goals of this mission are clear.
The latest justification from the U.S. Secretary of State made no mention of Iran's nuclear program.
It is to destroy the ability of this regime to launch missiles, both by destroying their missiles and their launchers, destroy the factories that make these missiles, and destroy their Navy.
Very much on track, on plan.
On 60 Minutes, the defense secretary contradicted that, but wouldn't say whether the strikes were based on an imminent threat, as President Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed.
I mean, I think much of that discussion is silly and academic. They've been killing us for 47 years. They have unabated nuclear ambitions.
Equally unclear is how a war with no clear goals might come to an end, or whether the U.S. can accomplish what it wants to without sending ground troops into Iran.
We're willing to go as far as we need to in order to be successful.
The president told the Times of Israel that any decision to stop fighting would be a mutual one made with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, but added the U.S. would have final say.
We could call it a tremendous success right now as we leave here. I could call it, or we could go further, and we're going to go further.
The timeline may be dictated by unintended consequences, including the surging price of oil and gas, the risk of terrorist attacks on U.S. soil, and the patience of American allies in the Gulf who face direct blowback from Iran.
Jackson, we're now into the second week of this war. President Trump had said it could last 4 to 5 weeks. Now he's cutting that back?
Well, Donna, this plays to the confusing messaging coming out of the White House here. Today, Trump's describing the war as a short-term excursion. He's saying it is very complete. He's also talking about taking over the Strait of Hormuz. All the while, the Pentagon is out there messaging that things are just getting started. It's hard to know what to believe. Ultimately, though, Donna, the decision will be Trump's.
Okay, Jackson, thank you. There is new video evidence suggesting U.S. forces may be responsible for an airstrike on a girls' school in southern Iran. More than 160 people were killed, most of them children. Video analyzed by the Associated Press shows a missile hitting an Iranian compound on February 28th. Further analysis of video and geolocation data verifies the school right next door was hit at the same time. As well, the investigative group Bellingcat says its analysis shows a U.S. Tomahawk cruise missile hitting the compound next to the school, showing for the first time the U.S. did hit the area.
Did the United States bomb a girls' elementary school in southern Iran on the first day of the war and kill 175 people?
In my opinion, based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran.
The U.S. Defense Secretary says the strike on the girls' school is being investigated, at the same time claiming Iran is the only country targeting civilians. In Canada, MPs are holding a debate tonight on the war. The Prime Minister, who won't take part, says Canada was not consulted before the war started and is not participating. Mark Carney initially expressed support for the American and Israeli strikes, though later said they may violate international law. As David Aiken explains, lots of MPs have thoughts on what Canada should do.
The first next step for Conservatives, immediately boot out what they say are hundreds of agents of Iran's regime right here in Canada.
Conservatives will be proposing plans to deport these terrorists, to kick them out of the country, to identify and expel them and keep our people safe.
And then, Conservatives say resource-rich Canada could help ease the world's growing energy crisis.
Conservatives are calling for an emergency energy supply plan that would unblock our resources and get them overseas.
The NDP says Prime Minister Mark Carney's comments last week about the conflict were all over the map.
The Canadian position has been unprincipled, it's been contradictory, and it's been incoherent.
And they are calling on Canada to condemn the U.S. and Israel for the attacks. As for the government itself, its current focus is protecting Canadians in the region, in some cases by arranging travel for them to leave.
All parties have to comply with the rules of international law, Mr. Speaker, and we will work to bring Canadians home safely.
Canadian military leaders are speaking with their allies and monitoring the situation.
A number of NATO members have decided to provide some assistance to neighboring countries in the immediate vicinity of Iran. Canada has made no such decision.
And on Monday, Canada said it would spend $900 million through the National Research Council to develop new defense technologies for use in the future.
This will allow us to develop new platforms for drone and aerospace technologies, including having a new drone innovation center, a drone innovation hub here in Ottawa.
As for the Prime Minister himself, he skipped Monday's question period and he did not participate in Monday evening's special House of Commons debate on the topic of Iran. Donna.
Okay, David Aiken in Ottawa, thank you. In the U.S., an investigation is underway after 2 homemade bombs were thrown near the home of New York City's mayor. 2 men have been charged with attempting to support the so-called Islamic State and use of a weapon of mass destruction. The devices, which did not explode, were thrown Saturday during counter-protests that were organized alongside an anti-Islam protest, which was led by a far-right activist and critic of New York City's mayor, Zohran Mamdani. Prosecutors say both suspects cited the Islamic State after they were arrested.
The NYPD and FBI bomb squads and bomb technicians did do controlled detonations of the 2 IEDs from the protest, which revealed a significant explosion. It's really important to note that had these IEDs functioned the way the perpetrators allegedly wanted them to, they could have caused death, destruction, extremely dangerous compound, an extremely dangerous place deployed.
Authorities say the 18 and 19-year-old suspects, both from Pennsylvania, arrived in New York less than an hour before the attack. A volatile day for oil prices. Coming up, what it means for the cost of food and gas here in Canada. There was lots of volatility on the markets today. The price of crude oil surged to nearly $120 a barrel at one point, then dropped below $90 after President Trump claimed on social media the war is very far ahead of schedule, in his words. Oil prices are still higher than when this war began, and the repercussions go beyond the price you pay at the pump, as Ann Gaviola explains.
Everything's under pressure right now.
Rising tensions in the Middle East are sending shockwaves through global energy markets, stoking prices at the pumps. Drivers already feeling the impact of the escalating Iran war. The Strait of Hormuz, a critical pinch point where about a fifth of the world's oil and gas typically flows through, is effectively shut down until further notice.
We've never seen the Strait of Hormuz closed before. Iran needs it open as much as anybody else. They are a major producer of oil and gas.
All of this pushing up the price of shipping, creating supply chain delays, an immediate impact on food prices and availability in Europe and parts of Asia. And that means overall inflation here at home is in the mail.
We might see an impact over time of high oil prices on the transportation of food products.
We import a lot, but we also need fuel to transport even locally, internally, right? So everything is going to go up in price.
If the conflict and disruption persist, the higher prices our homegrown commodities fetch on world markets may divert them abroad instead of here at home, impacting items like potash produced in Western Canada, a key ingredient in agricultural fertilizers.
Because the international market is going to become more competitive or is going to become more attractive, the local market can also suffer.
Household budgets should brace for impact. In fact, the widening Iran war has increased the likelihood that the Bank of Canada may hike interest rates to combat a new wave of inflation.
The Bank of Canada now has to consider increasing interest rates, 1/4 percentage point, 1/2 percentage point. You can bet that those are going to show up in mortgage rates.
Survey after survey shows the high cost of living and affordability issues are top concerns for Canadians. Analysts say higher interest rates, coupled with another bout of inflation, are more than many households are prepared for. Donna? All right, and Viola in Toronto, thank you. Thoughts from some Iranians in Canada ahead, what they think of the new supreme leader and the war in their homeland. The views of Iranian people, whether in Iran or here in Canada, are varied and complex. Many people here believe the new leader is only an extension of the same murderous regime. Heidi Petracek reports on how Iranians far from their home country view the war and what could come next.
Old city and
from the embroidery on the pillows to her books, almost everything in her home reminds Ziba Mashkuri of the country she left 30 years ago.
I hope that soon all this is going to be over.
To her, the selection of Iran's new supreme leader, the son of the Ayatollah, is only more of the same.
What happens is that brutality will carry on. Nothing will change. The operation will carry on.
At this Iranian dessert shop in Halifax, the same sentiment.
We don't call it a war, we call it a rescue mission.
Through a translator, Mariam Gassemi, who came to Canada less than 5 years ago, is hoping opposition leader Reza Pahlavi may rise into power if the Islamic regime falls.
People inside and outside of Iran, they want him, they're calling his name.
There are other voices entirely against the war.
There's always differences in opinions, but we hope that people will come together, to stand against war.
The Iranian-Canadian Congress's letter to the Prime Minister earlier this month asks the federal government to call for an end to the military action.
Without sovereignty, there can be no progress in civil rights and so on.
What is involved has to do with what is kind of at stake in a future for Iran.
The politics and history complex, which means there's no simple solution.
People have been wanting change. And so right now, the question is, what gets you to that change? And I'm not sure anything that's actually happening gets you there.
For Mashkuri, the thousands of lives lost protesting the regime earlier this year must have justice. And for her, that means change. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Valley, Nova Scotia.
Protecting the Iranian women's soccer team, what's next for the players stuck in Australia? Australia has granted humanitarian visas to 5 members of the Iranian women's soccer team, and the rest of the team has been told they are welcome to stay too. They arrived for a tournament before the war started, and now, as Eric Sorensen explains, find themselves caught up in the fallout from it.
When they took the field for their first match, many would not have appreciated this gesture. The Iranian women's soccer team simply standing during their national anthem. Back home, where war had just broken out, a TV commentator called them traitors. They got the message. Before Game 2, players dutifully saluted and sang the anthem. They didn't win a game, but it seems there was something much bigger on the minds of players like Zara Sarbali, Mona Hamoudi, and Zara Ganbari. It was an extraordinary week. In the stands, flags from the pre-Islamic Revolution were waving another form of protest. Outside, demonstrations against the brutal Iranian regime. And when the team bus left the stadium Sunday night, supporters chanted, "Save our girls," they called out. The players were not made available for post-match interviews. The Iranian coach said personally she wanted to return to Iran as soon as possible. On Monday, at the team's hotel, security stood by. Players were seen on the hotel balcony. Then came word. Sarbali, along with Hamoudi and Ganbari, and 2 others had left the team. The 5 players fled the hotel, identified online by Iran's prince in exile, Reza Pahlavi, who called them courageous athletes. They were taken to an Australian police safe house and have now been granted asylum.
These women are great athletes, great people, and they're going to feel very much at home in Australia.
Others reportedly want to return to Iran, fearing retribution against family members if they don't go back. The Australian government is being exhorted to protect them all.
Whether they're able to stay here in Australia or if they do want to return, how do we do that safely? And then obviously ensuring that they're incredibly safe when they get back to Iran. That's going to be really difficult.
Some may return to Iran and some may never go back. But the world knows that for a moment, these women stood together, courageous and unflinching. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
That is Global National for this Monday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is Dunfield, Newfoundland and Labrador. Thanks for watching and hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.